The college football playoff semifinals are out. The games have been released. Welcome back to another podcast episode, a special podcast episode where I'm going to be predicting the college football playoff set of quarterfinals. I'm sorry I didn't make a podcast episode about the first games, and I have a reason for that. The only playoff game that was worthy enough for a podcast episode was Clemson and Texas. Because the other playoff games that I witnessed were pretty brutal and pretty boring to watch. And especially when it comes to Ohio State. They beat the crap out of Tennessee 42-17. And since we're on the subject, let's talk about the matchups. Ohio State takes on the Oregon Ducks in the Rose Bowl game. In the Peach Bowl, it's the Texas Longhorns taking on the Big 12 champions, Arizona State. Penn State and Boise State, that's going to be for the Fiesta Bowl. The Verbal Fiesta Bowl, a bowl game that Penn State has played in once before, and Penn State's also played in the Fiesta Bowl. And finally, to wrap it all up, it's the All-State Sugar Bowl, where the Notre Dame Fighting Irish take on the Georgia Bulldogs. 4 of these teams we will be seeing again in the semifinals. 8 teams walk in, 4 advance. And yes, the college football playoff quarterfinals are going to be on ESPN. And there's your TV channel right there, viewers. And yes, the college football playoff quarterfinals have been set. And let's get into my predictions. Starting out with the Verbal Fiesta Bowl on New Year's Eve. A lot of people are going to be watching the New Year's Eve parties. But for college football fans, especially Boise State and Penn State fans, they're going to be watching their teams lock horns on the gridiron in the Fiesta Bowl. That's how I'm going to be spending my New Year's Eve, with Penn State and Boise State. Honestly, I think Boise State is going to give Penn State a tougher time than SMU did. Because SMU only scored like 10 points against Penn State. And honestly, Penn State and Boise State should be a thrilling game. Maybe one for the ages. Because Boise State has a really solid running back and quarterback. Their quarterback is Maddox Matson. He's only thrown like 3 interceptions in this game. In the season alone. And they got Ashton Jeanty, Boise State's running back, who's already rushed for over 2,000 yards. And he's tearing the place up. But Penn State has a solid offense and defense. So yeah, this should be a really interesting game. These two teams could be dark horses for the big prize of them all, the College Football National Championship. But the problem is, though, Dylan Gabriel and Ohio State, these two teams could be lighting it up. Gabriel's thrown for 3,558 passing yards and 28 touchdowns this season. That is incredible. But the problem is, though, he's going to have to take on the Ohio State Buckeyes in a Rose Bowl game. This is going to be my first game I'm going to predict. Ohio State and Oregon are going to be locking it on the gridiron. This is the game I'm going to be personally attending. I will be going to Pasadena, California, to watch this game. This is going to be one of the most amazing games I've ever seen. The last time these two teams met up, it was a 1-point win in favor of Oregon. But Ohio State has not forgotten about that. And honestly, when Ohio State beat the piss out of Tennessee 42-17, they just beat the crap out of them. Will Howard has thrown for 311 passing yards and 2 touchdowns this season. He only threw for 311 passing yards and only 1 interception against Tennessee. He's had 10 games this season with 200-plus passing yards and 2-plus pass touchdown games. That's Will Howard alone. Will Howard is a solid quarterback. He's a really solid person that can light up the Big Ten. And he's been doing it with Jeremiah Smith, a freshman wide receiver who's caught most of his passes. But Oregon's got Tez Johnson. They got Terrence Ferguson. And they got Trayshawn Holden. They got a lot of great receivers on that team. They got a lot of great weapons. And Ohio State has great weapons too. They got Will Howard, Jeremiah Smith, Emeka Egbuka, Jack Sawyer. A lot of really great players that can make a lot of noise. But for my first prediction is going to be for the Rose Bowl, and I got Oregon losing this game, not by much though, 45-47, in favor of Ohio State. I think Ohio State will win the Rose Bowl game and move on to face the winner of Texas versus Arizona State. My prediction for this game, which is the Peach Bowl, by the way, my prediction for the Peach Bowl is Texas beats the crap out of Arizona State. They win 38. They win 48-21. Because I don't think Sam Levitt has what it takes to pass. I just don't think Sam Levitt has what it takes to take down this mighty Texas defense, who's ranked number 3 in the country. Actually, they're ranked first in the country. Texas, Ohio State, and Notre Dame are the top 3 defenses in the FBS this season. Oregon is number 4, and Georgia's number 5. And Penn State is right behind them at 6. So we are going to be seeing some really intriguing matchups. But when it comes to the Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl, the winner of this game takes on Oregon or Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl for the playoff semifinals. And honestly, I'm going to lock in the semifinal prediction right now. Texas and Ohio State. I think Ohio State beats Oregon 45-47. And I think Texas beats the crap out of Arizona State 48-21. Texas and Arizona State, I think, are going to be going on to the Goodyear Cotton Bowl. But now that at least one more semifinal game to predict is going to happen, and that's going to be the Capital One Orange Bowl. And starting off with that, we got Boise State and Penn State in the Fiesta Bowl on New Year's Eve. A lot of people are going to be watching the New Year's Eve ball drop with Ryan Seacrest, but I'm going to be watching in my New Year's Eve with Penn State and Boise State. I think this game between Boise State and Penn State is going to be a shootout. It's not going to be like that a terrible defensive game like it's got notified up with the Seahawks winning 6-3. But I got a Penn State winning this one in a shootout, 45-43. I think Ashton Jeanty is going to be lining it up. I think he'll run for over at least 100 yards to tie Barry Sanders' record. I think he's going to tie Barry. I think Ashton Jeanty is going to be tying tying Barry Sanders' record. I think he will. I think he'll rush for over 200 plus yards against Penn State's defense. So I think Boise State and Penn State is going to be an offensive shootout because of Jeanty and his explosive legs. Ashton Jeanty is one of the few guys that you can just expect to run away from. But he'll just run away from you, just bulldoze you. You try to get in his way. But when it comes to the New Year's Eve bowl predictions, my New Year's Eve is going to be spent with Boise State and Penn State. Texas, I think Texas is going to beat the crap out of Arizona State 48-21. I think Ohio State is going to win in the shootout against Oregon 45-47. I think they will cover the 2.5 points in spread because the Buckeyes are 2.5 point favorites. But let's talk about the Fiesta Bowl for 1 second here. Boise State and Penn State have met in the Fiesta Bowl before. Actually, my dad was telling me an amazing story between these two. He told me that he watched the 2007 edition of the Fiesta Bowl, which Boise State was in. And Boise State was in the Fiesta Bowl in 2007, the same year I was actually born, if you can believe that or not. But Boise State was playing Oklahoma in that game, and Boise State won on a fake Statue of Liberty. A fake Statue of Liberty is all it took. My dad showed me that play, and I actually have a clip of it. It's actually going viral on the internet, so I will upload that clip as soon as I'm done with this podcast episode, so I can share it with you guys as well. And honestly, I just looked at the stat line for the Notre Dame and Georgia matchup. We'll get back to the Boise State and Penn State game in just a few seconds, but I just got done watching the stat line between Notre Dame and Georgia. Notre Dame is a 2.5-point favorite against Georgia. And that leads me to my next prediction about the Sugar Bowl. I think with Carson Beck being out for the season for Georgia, that's right, Carson Beck is done for the season. He suffered a tear in his throwing arm he suffered a tear in his shoulder in his throwing arm during a 22-19 win and against Texas in the SEC championship game. And Georgia has to go up against a very solid Notre Dame defense, and I think these two teams are going to be putting on a really, really boring defensive showdown. But when it comes to my score prediction, I'm picking an upset. And that just seals the deal. I'm picking an upset. And Notre Dame upsets Georgia 23-17. And now, back to the Fiesta Bowl. My dad was telling me a really amazing story about Boise State and Penn State. Boise State specifically. He watched the 2007 edition of the Fiesta Bowl. He watched the 2007 edition of the Fiesta Bowl, and he told me that Boise State won on a fake Statue of Liberty. A fake Statue of Liberty is what sealed the game for Boise State against Oklahoma in the 2007 Fiesta Bowl. There is a clip of the exact same play that my dad was talking about. He said that the Boise State-Oklahoma game in the Fiesta Bowl was the best game he's ever watched. And Boise State, it has been in the Fiesta Bowl before against Oklahoma, and we all know the outcome of that now. But when it comes to Boise State and Penn State, this is going to be a shootout. And honestly, Boise State could get Penn State a run for their money. But I got Penn State winning this one. But not by much. I got Penn State winning 45-43. The Peach Bowl, Texas and Arizona State. I got Texas winning big, 48-21. The Rose Bowl game, a heated rematch. I got Ohio State winning this one, 47-45. And for the Sugar Bowl, I got Notre Dame in Georgia. I got Notre Dame winning this one against Georgia, 23-17. Which leads me to my semifinal predictions. If my predictions are accurate, and enough though, look, I'm only picking Ohio State to win because I am an Ohio State Buckeyes fan, but this is a heated rematch. I'll be making another podcast episode about this rematch tomorrow as well, because these two Titans could completely take over the Big Ten next year. If they only go into, let's say they have, one loss each, then Ohio State and Oregon could be kings of the Big Ten next season. So, yeah, I don't think this is going to be the last time Ohio State and Oregon meet up. And I think there's going to be a conference rivalry. Yes, I think Ohio State and Oregon could turn into be a rivalry game. I think this is going to be a rivalry matchup. Could we be seeing another intriguing matchup between these two Titans? Everyone's talking about that NFL game between the Bears and Seahawks, and by the way, 6-3 is a boring game. A lot of defense in that game. But still, though, I got Ohio State and Oregon winning this one. I still got Ohio State winning this one big, but in reality, it's hard to pick against the Ducks. So you know what? I'm changing my prediction against the Rose Bowl. I think Oregon will win this game now. Because Dylan Gabriel's an elite quarterback, and I just think, as much as I want to see Ohio State win the national championship game, I think Oregon is one of the teams that is going to be there at the end to win it all. It's hard to pick against the Ducks. I'm sorry, guys, it really is. This is the closest that Oregon has ever been to winning a national championship game. Ever. So I think Oregon could win this game. But that would set up a Texas-Oregon matchup. Oregon has a really daunting path to make the national championship game. So I think if Oregon beats both Ohio State and Texas, it makes the national championship game and wins the national championship game, then I demand to see Oregon get any of the respect that they deserve. But let's face it though, Ohio State and Texas, these are two solid teams. And if there's any team that can knock off the Ducks that's really talented and that's really good, that's Texas. But at the same time, a Texas-Ohio State semifinal would not be bad at either. But I got Texas winning that game in 48-21. This is just such a hard game to predict between these two Titans, between Oregon and Ohio State. Anything can happen. So my prediction for this Rose Bowl rematch between Oregon and Ohio State is going to be left undecided. I don't have an official score prediction, but when it comes time to talk about this game again, which I will be, because I got a lot of opinions about both Ohio State and Oregon. So yeah, stay tuned for my prediction against Ohio State and Oregon. But other than that, let's move on to the Sugar Bowl, where I got Notre Dame upsetting Georgia 23-17. I got Texas winning this, and in the Peach Bowl against Arizona State 48-21. And I got a Penn State beating Boise State 43-45. So yeah, those are my predictions for 3 out of the 4 quarterfinal games in the college football 12 team playoff, and that is going to wrap it up for this podcast episode. And if you really enjoy what you like today, guys, stay tuned for more. And I really like that people are subscribing to my channel. I really do appreciate that. And I want to see those subscriptions coming. So yes, please subscribe for more. And if you haven't, check out my other podcast episodes about this. I know that I have some people that just subscribe to this channel. So I encourage you guys to check out my other podcast episodes as well. They're all really amazing, and I got a lot to say, and this is not the last podcast episode I will be doing. So yes, stay tuned for my final thoughts about the quarterfinals. And also stay tuned for the Rose Bowl prediction against Ohio State and Oregon. Other than that, I'll see you guys next time.